Well, I think Eddie Howe was always going to be asked about Paul Mitchell's comments, which took place last week. If you are still just catching up after the international break, remember Paul Mitchell talking about the fact that the scouting system at the club isn't fit for purpose, and also saying that, you know, he only played a supporting role in the transfers over the summer. And I think that, you know, those were the two big talking points for the fan base. For me, Eddie Howe dealt with it quite well. I think there was a sort of willingness to move on, but also have his say in a couple of those issues. I mean, the big one being the scouting system not fit for purpose. I mean, Newcastle, when Eddie Howe first came in, they were rock bottom of the table, and, you know, there was no real time to do any homework. They were taken over from another ownership and they had to get deals done. And Eddie Howe saying there that he's proud of every deal that he did do. I mean, you go back to Kieran Trippier, Bruno Guimaraes, yes, but also someone like Chris Wood, who perhaps wasn't the rip-roaring success that, you know, he would have hoped to be, but in some games he did play a big part for Newcastle. I think that's the sort of signing Eddie Howe was talking about. Every point was to be played for back then, and I think really he made his feelings clear on that, saying, you know, almost defending his role in transfers before that. Other talking points were in there, you know, the fact that he's now got real options. Sandro Tonali coming back after 290 minutes, so his midfield's going to be, you know, it's going to be an interesting call at Molineux at the weekend. Kieran Trippier as well, the benefit of training for 2 weeks while not being on international duty, which is something completely new to him. And basically he's in the running as well. Emil Kraft looks to be fit as well, so it looks like Eddie Howe's got genuine options going into this one. We'll have to wait and see what happens on Sunday. Eddie Howe keeping his team sheet close to his chest. But ultimately, a good, enlightening press conference. Eddie Howe giving a strong lead, said he's happy on the training pitch, just wants to get on with it. He says, you know, January transfer meetings will come later. He just wants to get on with it. He just wants to move forward with where Newcastle are after that window, good or bad. And he knows that for him, that this weekend is huge. You know, Newcastle unbeaten, 5th in the table. This is an opportunity to really push on now. So let's hope they can get those 3 points at Molineux. Just reflecting on some of the things Eddie Howe said in his press conference about the early signings after the takeover. I think, you know, you go back to that time and he's right. You know, they were rock bottom of the table. There was no time for strategy and they had to make good choices. And for me, good choices were made. I mean, Kieran Trippier has probably been one of the bargains of all time at Newcastle, coming in, helping the club stabilise and then get to the Champions League. You know, Dan Burn, another one who come in. At that time, you know, they were staring relegation in the face, and someone like Burn has come in and been a big part of the recent history at the club. So I don't think that anyone can ever sort of question that. You know, after that, Alexander Isak, Sven Botman, Anthony Gordon. So these are all top signings we're talking about. So I can see why he would, in a very polite way, take issue with the fact that was said that, you know, the scouting wasn't fit for purpose, because many players in the squad now who are going to help lead Newcastle to glory this season were part of that very scouting network. But I think there was, as I mentioned before, a real willingness to try and move on from, you know, these comments and the political questions and what's going on in the background. I think at the start of the press conference, Eddie Howe, you know, pretty much did play it all down, and it was only deeper in the press conference with the sort of written journalists that we did start talking about Newcastle tax again, PSR, relationships. And I think Eddie Howe, you know, he didn't, as ever, he didn't shirk any questions, and I think that's really important. That, you know, it's not just reading off a sort of propaganda sheet. It's actually, you know, it's a discussion. The press conferences these days, they are the chat. I mean, when Eddie Howe first come in, many people wondered what type of relationship he would have with the press, but it's been very open and honest. And one big thing is that after certain questions, no grudges seem to be held. It just seems to be move on. He doesn't waste energy worrying about things that aren't going to benefit Newcastle in the future. He moves on quickly. I think that's something that I've certainly learned about Eddie Howe in the last sort of 3 years. Probably a bit different to what I was expecting, but the main thing is, and I've spoke about this on other videos, is that look at his record: 48% win ratio, ahead of Sir Bobby Robson, just behind Kevin Keegan. You've got to give the guy a lot of respect. And yes, last season he was criticised. He took that criticism on the chin and he moved on. And he just missed out on getting Newcastle into Europe. This season's another challenge. It's they're sitting in fifth now before any Premier League action kicks off this weekend. Let's hope that they can get that win down at Wolves and then hopefully be in the top four. It's a new season now. I'm pleased that the transfer window's shut in many ways because it means we can focus on what we all enjoy best, watching Newcastle win football matches, and hopefully players coming back from injury, competition for places. It's going to be really interesting. So, but it's about just staying in that top five, top four. We don't know how many teams will qualify for the Champions League next season. It's really important Newcastle get back there. You will see, you will feel the loss of not being in the Champions League when it all kicks off again very soon. So let's hope Newcastle can keep up that challenge. I know Eddie Howe's really focused on it, so let's hope Wolves is another step on that journey.